All right, now to understand the difference in your trays, you may look at this as a beginner and say, what the heck am I looking at? What do all those numbers mean? Why are there points? What am I looking at? There are going to be multiple different diameters, and it will let you know the type of set that you're doing. So what do I mean by diameters? I mean the thickness, how thick the lashes are. That's what these point numbers stand for. That's what these point numbers stand for. So here we have 0.15. Here we have 0.3. In this tray, we have a 0.5. So remember this, if you can try to write it down somewhere on paper or on your notes. The higher the number, the lighter it is. The lower the number, the heavier it is. When you're doing lashes, you want to also take into account the health of the natural lashes. So say you have a client that has weaker lashes than the last client, you don't want to use a diameter that's lower in the number because it's going to be heavier, right? And so the heavier that it is also the heavier that it weighs on that natural lash. It may potentially cause the actual natural lash to fall out prematurely and just so many issues that you don't want to create. So for classics though, they do come in lower diameters. That's why it's impossible to make a fan with classic lashes, because the diameter is so low, the lashes are so heavy and dense that you're not able to fan them out. They're only meant to be applied one by one. And that's that ratio that you see when you see 1:1 or 1:3 or 1:5. That first number, the 1, stands for the natural lash, and that second number stands for however many fans. So for example, with the classic, you're going to see a 1:1 ratio. But if you're making a fan like these, you would see maybe a 1:6, 1:5, and that just means however many fans that we've created. Now you don't have to sit there and count how many fans you're doing as you're fanning it, because that would just be impossible for the human eye to count. But when you're making a fan, you are doing multiple hairs. So that second number stands for the multiple hairs that are in the fan, whether it's a 1:10 or a 1:8 or a 1:3. The ratio also determines how thin or thick the fan is when it comes to those higher than 1 digits in the ratio. And that's going to be important when we get into hybrid. But right now, we're only starting with classic. So with classic, again, the lowest that classic can go that I've seen is maybe about 0.20. And then the highest that you should use for classic is a 0.10. Typically, I go with a 0.15. It's in the middle between that 20 and that 10. So it's not too light, but it's not too heavy. Because remember, the higher the number, the lighter that it is. Try to listen as I play with these fans, because also the heavier that it is, the thicker that it kind of feels. It's so thick and heavy. And now let's use a 0.3 for example. Now 0.3, this is the highest that I've seen. If you do reach out to vendors, I have seen vendors offering 0.2, but 0.3 is going to be the highest diameter, the lightest diameter. These lashes are very, very light and soft. You can create so many fans within one. They're the lightest. People like to use these typically for mega. I used to use these for just regular volume, and this is why it's so important to know your diameters, because I would even try to use a 0.3 to create hybrids, and you'll understand later on why that was an issue. But because it made so many fans, because it was so light, it made so many fans, it made my hybrid or like my natural sets look too volume. It made my hybrid sets look very thicker than normal, than the client would want it to be. So 0.3, it's the lightest. It's very, look, you can't really hear it as much. That's because it's very light, very soft. You can even tell the difference in like how it looks. And so the difference between the 0.3 and the 0.5 diameter is that the 0.5 is just a good in between. You can still make pretty fans with them, but they're not able to do as many fans as the 0.3 would be able to do. With the 0.5, lash techs like to use these for just your regular standard volume sets. If you are again trying to do a mega volume, then that's when you would go and grab your 0.3. Either way, they're both good diameters for volume. It just depends on how full you're wanting the look. It just depends on how full you're wanting the set to look.